Welcome to the University of Nottingham and to the Department of Theology and Religious Studies. Welcome to another in our series, Sacred Calendars, where we explore with experts in the various religions what particular feasts mean for particular groups. And with me today I have Dr. Holger Zellentin, who is an expert in Rabbinic Judaism and is going to talk to us about the significance of Pesach. Holger, welcome. Tell us about Pesach.
Thanks, Tom. So Pesach is usually known by the name of Passover in the English language. We also sometimes refer to it as Easter in the Christian tradition. The Jewish festival of Pesach is an ancient biblical festival. It has been celebrated for several thousand years by first Israelites, then Jews. Nowadays, it is most importantly a family holiday. It is a holiday that brings together communities, it brings together the family mostly. People will convene for a meal, which really is the basis, the heart of the festival. Pesach is celebrated in the spring, in the 14th of Nisan, as is well known. That's about March or April. The Jewish calendar sometimes is not in sync with the solar one, so each year there would be a slightly different date for Pesach. And what happens on Pesach, on the meal, is that there is a ritual meal on the first day, the first of the 8 days of the celebration. And there's a set menu. It is not any old lunch you're having. It is a dinner. It's a very festive dinner. And people tend to add their own details to it, but this menu is basically set. And the main dishes are Pesach, the Pesach itself, which is a piece of lamb. It is the matzah, which is unleavened bread. If you eat it without water, you die of what we call matzah poisoning. It's so dry. But it is served all through the Pesach holiday. And the third most important ingredient is the bitter herbs. Now, these traditional ingredients have all been imbued with meaning. The Pesach itself is linked to the exodus of the Israelites, just as is the matzah linked to the flight. It is unleavened bread, that's why it's so dry, and it symbolizes the haste of the flying Israelites in the desert. And the bitter herbs have been symbolized as denoting the Pharaoh's suppression. It's the bitterness of the experience. Now, all these elements are put forward in a text called the Pesach Haggadah, this narrative about Pesach. And it's a marvelous text to study. It's a marvelous historical text that the rabbis put together based on traditional material in conjunction with a clear emphasis on children, on family, on the teaching of all these events and all the rituals themselves. The Pesach Haggadah is usually a published book with colorful pictures, where we find beautiful children's songs, Manish Tana being the most famous one. How is this light different? The parent asks, the children responds. Other songs are all-time favorites. There's even in modern Israeli culture, you have riffs on this song. You have them coming into popular culture. So it is a very festive family holiday. The history of the festival in biblical times is very interesting. It is a combination, the Pesach holiday, of two festivals. One is the festival of Matzot, which the ancient Israelites celebrated. The other one is the Pesach itself, an agricultural festival. These two festivals have been combined already within the ancient Israelite tradition and linked to the Exodus narrative. That is the history. The interesting thing is that we really have a rite here that has been given an extra meaning. It has been made into a metaphor of liberation, a metaphor of leaving the suppressing Egyptians. And the metaphor itself has then in turn been embodied by the rabbis in another form of ritual. The Seder itself, the meal, does embody what has been metaphor before. So there's a circle of ritual, meaning given, and then the ritual, the meaning influencing the ritual in return. Historically, Pesach has been also, in addition to its historical meaning, has been used by philosophers, by Jewish philosophers, by rabbis, and by other Jewish thinkers to symbolize many aspects of liberation. One example would be the ancient tradition of the Jewish philosopher Philo of Alexandria, who had seen the Pesach and the Exodus as such a liberation not of the Jewish people so much, that also, but he was living in Egypt after all, so he said it's a liberation of the mind, a liberation of the mind from the body, the Platonic philosopher he was. That's one example in which Pesach has been used to describe something else yet. Perhaps the most famous example is that of Jesus himself. His followers saw in the Pesach ritual a liberation of mankind, or Israel in its entirety. It was the messianic expectation. And here we see a very interesting use. The ancient ritual of Pesach in the Bible speaks about this killing of the firstborns in Egypt. The Egyptians mistreat the Israelites to a degree that God kills their firstborns and protects the Hebrew ones, the Israelite ones. In the early Jesus movement, we see a certain ironization of that. Rather than God killing the firstborns of the Egyptians, of the humans, here we have a portrayal of humans killing what the Christians then claim to be God's firstborn. So it is also a very fundamental aspect of Christianity, this Pesach festival. But of course, that comes out of a Jewish tradition. It comes out of the Jewish idea of liberation of mankind and of the messianic expectation.
I'm just intrigued. You have a meal, you have the community around the meal, you have the memory, you have the repetition, and then the repetition gaining new meanings almost in every generation. It strikes me that you have there actually the very kernel of how religions grow and change. And yet, growing and changing, they also retain their identity over time.
Absolutely, and it's very important to see that both the rite and the intellectual reflection embody the religion just as much. You can't say it started with this and it went to that. You can't say that the meaning precedes the ritual, nor can you say that the ritual precedes the meaning. It's a mix, and in this mix of meaning and ritual, both reinforce each other, change each other, but also keep each other in check. It's very interesting that any ancient Israelite coming to a modern Jewish home would probably see what's going on, but he would miss most of the meaning, and vice versa, because the meaning has been changed, but the festival itself has stayed and has given a continuous sense of Judaism, which really is embodied in both the rite itself and the reflection.
Well, of course, that's the fundamental religious thing, that if things are going to keep going the way they've always been going, we better start making changes. That religions constantly renew themselves, not just through any formal academic thing or through some ritual thing, but through this rich interchange. And is there any Jews all over the world are going to be celebrating Pesach this year? Is there any what varieties will we find?
Well, there's lots of variety. You have, for example, the most important difference is between the Ashkenazic and the Sephardic rites within Judaism. Those are the two main Jewish groups, one connected to the traditions of Eastern Europe, the other to that of the Arab world, Morocco, and all the way to Iraq. The songs will be sung differently, but it will be similar songs. The food will be slightly different, the requirements will be slightly different, but any Jew of the one tradition could easily participate in the other celebration. So there's diversity, but there's also unity within the same festival.
Holger, thank you for taking us through the meaning of Pesach and for trying to give us an insight into not only the festival, but how the celebration of festivals is an important reality in the whole dynamism of a religion. I hope that you have found this video interesting, and I would just like to say thank you for watching. I'd like to say thank you to my colleague Holger. So from the University of Nottingham and its Department of Theology and Religious Studies, goodbye. Thank you.